done. Go ahead.
Hello and welcome to coverage of the Players Championship 2012 here from Seattle, Washington. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined in the booth by Zach Hill, and we are underway already. Martin Juza on the left-hand side of your screen, battling against Brian Kibler on the right side. He's playing blue-white. Martin is on Jund, and we see a pretty critical turn one play here, Zach.
Oh, right. I mean, the deck always wants to cast a Thoughtseize or an Inquisition on turn one. In this case, Inquisition would have been like Thoughtseize without paying 2 life. Yuuya, you see writing down all the cards in his hand. Very important to have perfect information, which was one of the things Yuuya said made him want to play the deck, was the abundance of discard spells. Now, I think you want to take Geist of Saint Traft here. You might also take Vendilion Click because Liliana is an answer to Geist. On the other end, Liliana's not an answer to Geist if Mutavault's in play. So already a very key strategic decision on the first turn of the game before Kibler's even played a land.
Yeah, I think Modern's a pretty deep format. There's a whole lot going on here, and each of these decisions are important. He's going to take the click.
Yeah, and interestingly, because he has a Lightning Bolt to deal with it and he's on the play, but I think, a 3/1 creature with Flash, again, the Jund deck not very good at dealing with Flash creatures. So Kibler just has some more lands. Looks like not a lot of action before 3 mana, so I think he's just going to play a land and pass here. Yeah, and he chooses to play Seachrome Coast.
This is a little bit of a different look for Kibler than what we're used to seeing. Normally we see a lot of green creatures, kind of big stuff. He's playing a much more, svelte deck here, right? This thing's all flash, mainly reactive. Sometimes a tempo-based deck, and it's interesting to see him pilot something a little different. I know he has the ability to do that.
That's true. I mean, it still has a lot of the mid-range cards that Kibler really likes, like Restoration Angel, of course, Baneslayer Angel out of the sideboard. But yeah, a little bit of a different animal from what we see most of the time. Path to Exile getting cast on Kitchen Finks. I've got to say, if I was Yuuya, I might have just cast Liliana there. You can sit and tick Liliana up. There aren't that many things that Kibler's deck can do about that, especially given what you know out of his hand, and you know about the Path to Exile, so you know it's getting pathed already.
Right. Now, maybe he's just not too unhappy with having a path, given that he's got he's accelerating his land, and also Jund can sometimes have issues with mana, and it should clear those up. Now, we do see Geist of Saint Traft for Kibler, and he just runs it right out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's possible Yuuya just didn't want to reveal the Liliana to Kibler because he knows Kibler has the Geist, and maybe Kibler's just going to walk right into it. As it stands for Yuuya, Liliana probably going to activate, go down to 1 loyalty to kill the Geist. Kibler has a Mutavault that he can attack with. Yuuya also, though, has Lightning Bolt to dispatch the Mutavault. And
what a great sequence for Yuuya if that happens. The question is, does Kibler walk into that or not?
And it's very doubtful. But Kibler also not really a whole lot of other action right now. He's got a Snapcaster Mage. Path to Exile not really accomplishing a whole lot right now. So.
And, from Kibler's side, he's going to look at 2 open mana that's going to represent not only Lightning Bolt, but also Terminate. And it just feels like very, very risky unless he's just very flooded and doesn't care about the land to just run it in there.
Right. Now, Yuuya, basically out of relevant cards, he's got 2 lands and a Lightning Bolt, so Liliana's +1 ability is going to be very good for him, right?
Yeah.
He's basically
just start decimating Kibler's hand.
Exactly. I mean, right. At very little cost to him. Kibler's got a Cryptic Command, kind of awkward to cast right now. Snapcaster Mage, kind of, underwhelming relative to its normal power level. Kibler, I think, passing, going to try to cast Snapcaster at the end of the turn, attack with both that and Mutavault to threaten Liliana.
Okay. So what is going to matter here is what does Yuuya do on his turn? Does he play something that can block, a threat, something?
I have 4.
Interesting choice to play the island over the Tectonic Edge. You have to know you're going to start getting hit with Liliana. You're not going to want to discard that edge eventually. On the other hand, you need 3 blue mana up for Cryptic Command. So
yeah, so
kind of makes sense,
so
I guess.
what are the spells that would be Cryptic Commanded here, though? He really does want to get that Snapcaster down and get to business. Wow, it looks like Yuuya's just flooding pretty hard. He's got a Lightning Bolt and I think 3 lands in hand.
Yeah, I mean, the downside to the Jund deck of all of its 1-for-1s, like its discard spells and its removal, is that it relies upon Dark Confidant and Bloodbraid Elf to generate card advantage. Without those, sometimes it can kind of stall. On the other hand, Liliana doing some real work here, just kind of turning those excess cards into real cards from Kibler's side of the table.
Right. So if we do, let's say that Martin Yuuya just says go, which is what I'm assuming is going to happen here. So Kibler flashes in. He does not. All right, so he's taking on a different line here. He says, you know, if you're not going to play anything, I guess he's not as worried. So he's got a colonnade now, which he can then threaten to activate it. It can get terminated.
Go ahead.
It cannot, however, get Maelstrom pulsed or lightning bolted.
Right. Yeah, the colonnade actually a pretty big top deck for Kibler right there. On the other end, he's probably going to have to discard one of his fifth land that he'd ordinarily use to attack with it. But still,
now, he can discard. I don't know if it's correct, but he could discard the Cryptic because he can, you know, snap it back at some point.
Sure, he's got to have yet another land to do that. But no, that is true. I mean,
I don't know if that's correct though. It just feels so wrong to discard a Cryptic that you can actually cast.
Right, and like you certainly don't want to cast it because Yuuya could or discard it immediately because Yuuya could cast something after doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Cryptic actually pretty valuable right now, given Yuza's limited access to threats. Yeah, Dark Confidant very huge right now. On the other end, Snapcaster Mage could target Path to Exile and deal with it, but we see the activation of Liliana, Swamp for Yuza, Tectonic Edge for Kibler. This makes any Raging Ravine or Treetop Village Yuza draws a little bit more relevant.
A little update from the side tables. Scott-Vargas versus Shuhei Nakamura are tied at 1 apiece already. They're going to hold that match so we can get game 3 potentially.
And yeah, Zhu from LSV and Jund from Shuhei means that, you know, the match ends quickly one way or the other. Yeah.
I mean, we're on what, turn 5 or 6 here, and that was.
Right. No,
all right. So what ended up happening? Did he cast a Cryptic?
Yeah, he Cryptic commanded the Dark Confidant. I think just
drew
because.
A card?
Right, and you want to use that Cryptic as soon as you can. Otherwise, it's just not going to accomplish anything as Liliana.
And so he did end up discarding the Tectonic Edge as well. He does not have enough mana to activate the Colony.
Discarding Tech Edge, Yuza as kind of karmic justice draws Raging Ravine. You still think he's going to want actual spells there? He's going to want a Bloodbraid Elf as soon as he can find one.
I would normally agree, except for the Raging Ravine gets huge very, very quickly.
That is true.
Yeah. I mean, it's a clock in and of itself. Now, Kibler's still sitting on 20 life, so it would take a while here. But that first hits for 4, you know, it does demand an answer.
I think Yuza is sitting here now thinking about whether he wants to use Liliana. He would have to discard either Raging Ravine or Lightning Bolt. Bolt very good against the Mutavault right now, as well as against the potential Snapcaster Mage. Raging Ravine clearly one of his key threats. I think Yuza's just going to play the Ravine and pass the turn.
That might be true. Do you think he regrets playing any of these lands?
It's hard to say.
I mean, he's gotten 2 of them from Path.
Well,
he's just going to bolt him?
Yeah, and he's going to do that play land so he can use his Liliana.
Right.
Obviously thinking about using Liliana in later turns, but I mean now Kibler can just cast Snapcaster Mage and attack with both that and Mutavault, and Liliana's off the board.
Right.
He gained 2 from Fink, so.
It does get the Dismember.
All right, maybe I went to 18. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I forgot to mark one. Where'd you start?
Little life discrepancy. They worked it out.
To the Snapcaster. Ooh.
Yuza not about to be disappointed.
Cast Snapcaster.
Sure.
Whatever. Sure.
Target whatever, because he's not flashing anything back.
It would be nice to have one more land from Kibler, being able to draw a card off that Cryptic Command.
Go ahead.
So do you like Yuza's line there of just using up his hand just to keep... I mean, it was in range of getting killed. It's pretty bad to have Liliana just die like that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of loose. Like, you know he has Mutavault. You know he has a ton of flash creatures. Lightning Bolt, kind of valuable from this board state. So.
All right, so this thing gets exiled.
Go.
We hear a huge sigh. I don't think there's any more basics, and he just passes the turn. You can see him shaking his head there.
He does have a Treetop Village, which kind of blocks both Snapcaster Mage and Mutavault, but all Kibler needs to do... It's a bad place for Yuza right now, because if Kibler draws lands, he can activate Celestial Colonnade. If he draws spells, well, he's drawing spells. So Yuza kind of behind, really needs to draw some Bloodbraid Elves to get back into the game.
They stuck together when he was drawing.
I drew a card, but drew 2.
Okay. Cheater.
I saw the bottom one, but not the top one.
There's nothing, yeah,
they didn't
nothing's
do it.
ordered the library.
So Bielit's going to come in here, and he's going to re-randomize the library. This is a standard procedural thing when a player has potentially seen a card.
So we see Yuza draw Thoughtseize. One of the downsides to Inquisition and Thoughtseize is you draw them late in the game. They're kind of embarrassing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of matches of Modern don't actually get into the late game, but a deck like Kibler's we saw last game with John Finkel, this deck very capable of grinding the game out. You know, and designed to do that to take advantage of its creature lands, but Yuuya very disappointed to draw Thoughtseize and not a threat here.
You can see how frustrated he is here. Martin sitting on 18 life.
Between this and the Liliana, he's had to think really hard about what his discard's even doing this match.
Yeah, you guys get a look at Luis Scott-Vargas and Shuhei Nakamura behind there.
and a listen to Kibler's vigorous flipping of his cards. Restoration Angel, a huge top deck for Kibler right here. What's interesting is
he's going to pile on the pressure. I mean, does he just activate Colonnade and get in there?
I think so. I mean, maybe not. Like, you want to cast Angel, and like when you cast Angel targeting Snapcaster Mage, if that's what you do here, you just get a lot of value, get that Treetop Village off the board.
He would just path it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like, might as well swap it out for a regular land.
Well, no, but I mean, last time he got path, he didn't even search, right?
Is that true?
I don't know. I think he... Yeah, look, he just didn't even look.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
he's just
use a 2 swamp, 1 forest, the only basic lands in his deck, so...
I mean, are there not 2 swamps floating around? Or?
I think he discarded them to Liliana.
I see.
All right, so was that a hard cast path from Kibler?
Looks like it.
Oh, okay, not wanting to Restoration Angel, getting back path because...
Flashback.
Yeah, targeting it now. Didn't want to do that on the attack because he wanted to deal 2 damage with Snapcaster Mage.
Okay.
All right, commanding board presence from Kibler right here. Confirming 12, going to be attacking for 9 points of damage.
Oh no, 3.
You're at 3, yeah. It's 9 damage.
Not a lot of optimism from Yuza's side of the board.
No. Is that a Kitchen Finks?
I think that's a Tarmogoyf.
I think he's got a Finks and a
Finks and a
Goyf,
Goyf,
but at any rate, neither are relevant to the board state, and he scoops it up. Too many Path to Exiles there from Kibler.
Yeah, and really a powerhouse start
You
from Yuza.
pretty flooded there.
And Kibler summarizes it correctly. Yuza pretty flooded. Great start. Discard spell to Liliana. Thought Liliana was going to help him get ahead, but his deck just didn't produce any threats.
Dude, I'm drinking so much water. Okay.
We hear Kibler talking about how much water he's been
Right, a very important checkup on the Kibler's hydration level.
You know, you got to stay hydrated if you're going to compete at a very high level.
Marshall's saying this to me with a bottle of water in his hand, so
I am.
The man is play testing what he believes.
Even while working. I'm getting ready for the next time that I'm in the Players' Championship.
Yeah. GL.
See you there.
Yeah. No, Yuza signing out Lightning Bolts. Again, we discussed one of the reasons to play Kibler's deck. Not very, Lightning Bolt just not too good in the matchup.
I mean, if you're killing a Snapcaster Mage with it, you just can never be super happy with that, right?
All right, so we're transitioning.
All right, are we switching over? Yeah, it looks like we're going to switch over to the other match between. Okay, so Luis Scott-Vargas and Shuhei Nakamura, and we see a right away similar start here with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think maybe Shuhei might be on a mulligan here, but all right. So we're 1-1 LSV versus Shuhei, and there's an Inquisition to Kozilek to lead things off. He's going to take a Step Links from him. We see a Thrun the Last Troll.
Okay.
Also a Kasali Pride Mage, and a little monkey business there.
A little monkey business with a Curd Ape. Yeah, we see Marsh Flat's going to get something, presumably able to cast Curd Ape. I would guess Steam Vents. Interesting hands. We see the one of Olivia Voldaren from Shuhei to go with the one of Thrun the Last Troll from Luis. So a pair of Singleton 4-drops that are nevertheless likely to define this game.
You can't get Steam Vents with Marsh Flats, right?
That's not how that, yeah,
Okay.
you're absolutely right. You can get Blood Crypt, however.
You can, and he did. And we saw, so another Inquisition of Kozilek took away the other Kasali Pride Mage, and hey, double monkey business.
Maelstrom Pulse right here would be positively devastating. Does have a Kitchen Finks.
Okay.
Still comparatively devastating. It's going to take out one of the monkeys and stick around, gaining 2 more life.
Yeah, he lost 2 life for playing his Shockland untapped, but also gained it back for casting the Kitchen Finks. Now, just for you guys viewing at home, that Thrun the Last Troll is not actually in play. Luis is leaving it revealed because he knows that Shuhei knows it's there, and he's just letting them see that.
Right.
This is a common playtesting thing,
It
right?
is. And in a more competitive tournament, you probably wouldn't see players doing that. But again, at this event, everybody knows everybody else. So, like,
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know
why
if
not?
it's a question of competitiveness versus just comfort level with your opponent.
Yeah, sure. Competitive. I mean, certainly there's $40,000 in the line.
Yeah,
in this
I
tournament.
feel like this one's pretty competitive.
It's very competitive. And we heard Paulo talking about this. The atmosphere is a lot more. I mean, there's a ton of mutual respect from these guys,
Yes.
a ton of camaraderie, and we're really seeing Magic kind of how it was meant to be played. Not a lot of, rules, lawyering, things
Yes.
like that. Just good, solid Magic. Now, Olivia Voldaren coming down for Shuhei, sided it in for exactly this situation, really. Just kind of a board stall. Going to start going to work, either stealing the monkeys or out killing them outright.
Yeah, so it looks like Luis is going to have to find an answer for Olivia Voldaren like almost immediately here. A lightning bolt would do it.
And he's got the he's got the land for Thrun.
Thrun the last troll. Not bad. It does get around Olivia at least a little bit, but Olivia does grow.
Well, exactly. Like, Olivia can just attack for 5 right now. Shuhei also thinking about casting Bloodbraid Elf. Not going to get through Thrun, though, but might draw a removal spell, maybe a Maelstrom Pulse for the Curd Apes.
Does he even want to do that at this point? Don't you just want to start stealing? Because he will untap with the 5. He can ping something. He'll turn them both into vampire apes.
Sure.
And then he can steal them one at a time. I mean, after you've stolen your first creature, things start going downhill pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think I might have just attacked for 5 if I was Shuhei.
Oh, really?
I mean, Luis is at 16. You can grow it even more. So.
Shuhei sitting on 15. He's not under immediate threat with Luis having, at the time, 1 card in hand. He's got 2 now.
That is true, though. He can start stealing the apes.
Yeah, so he pinged, I'm assuming both of them. Yeah, so these are now vampire apes.
And if he attacks for 5, now he can he can take one of the Curd Apes and just throw it in the way of Thrun the last troll.
Yep.
If he has the opportunity to do that, using Inquisition to see if Luis has a removal spell.
Yes. Now he does have access. That is an overgrown tomb, correct? Yeah. So because he needs double black to be able to steal.
Blood
with
Crypt,
Olivia
not
Voldaren.
overgrown tomb, but it's still black mana, so
okay.
he is in fact able to cast that. Oh, yeah, on Overgrown Tomb, sorry, on Shuhei's side. I thought you were referring to Luis's side. Guys
Gotcha.
is saying Trapped, you may be asking why didn't he cast it? Well, it's because he doesn't have blue mana.
You mean Lingering Souls here, right?
No, the Guys
the
saying
Guy
Trapped that was
Trapped, it's in
taken
the
by
thing.
Inquisition
Okay,
of the
excuse
Kozilek.
me. Yeah, and so he's just keeping the Lingering Souls visible again. Again, this is just a courtesy to his opponent.
Right, and doesn't want to cast Lingering Souls because the last thing Olivia needs is more food.
Ah, yes. Oh, I mean, the best case there is that it makes him use up more mana. All right, so he is going to go ahead and steal the Curd Ape. As Luis says, I'm going to go to combat, and it looks like there is no combat.
Right, a tricky situation.
He could trade Thrun the Last Troll for the creatures, right? I mean, isn't it a 2-1 and a 2? Yeah, it is a 2-3 because of that Overgrown Tomb. The Curd Ape.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right. Overgrown Tomb and Stomping Grounds, I think. But yeah, I mean, like Thrun, can just regenerate or whatever. I think you don't want to attack. The last thing you want to do is let Olivia just start abyssing your creatures. Yeah, I think you kind of have to hope for a path to exile to get her off the board and get your creatures back.
Okay. But I mean, they don't come back.
Oh, they don't?
No.
They don't go away when Olivia
No, I think you
leaves?
designed that card, so I'm kind of...
Card was called Count Dracula in playtesting, actually.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
I love hearing those names when you tell them.
Now, Luis casting Lingering Souls and flashing it back. Shuhei doesn't have enough mana to really mow down all of the spirits, so now they're just sort of in chump block mode on Olivia.
Right.
All right.
He can mow down 2 of them.
Yeah, and he can do that at the end of the turn and then untap, get rid of the last one, and start hitting in the air for 5 again. Luis merely at 10 life, so dies in a couple of attacks from Olivia if the game gets that far. Shuhei right now trying to decide whether to take the Curd Ape or deal with the Lingering Souls tokens. Shuhei at 16
you know what? You were
life.
right, by the way, Zach. You gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Voldaren.
Right.
So he could... if he does find a path to exile, if he does find something, he has a chance to recoup some of this.
We see Shuhei just spending all of his mana on Olivia. He's got a Bloodbraid Elf in his hand, but I think just sort of decimating Luis's board is getting him a lot further than anything else. Be very surprised not to see an attack from Olivia right here.
Right.
Shuhei's hand, Liliana of the Veil, and a Bloodbraid Elf.
Okay.
And Shuhei leaning forward. You can tell from his body language he's about to make something happen.
It does. And you know, he does have a pretty firm hammer lock on this game currently.
And according to Martin Yuuza, Olivia, I think, was Yuuya Watanabe's idea. There's a Singleton Batterskull, a Singleton Olivia. Either way, it was sort of a last-minute addition to get advantages in board stalls, and it's doing exactly what it was meant to do in this game.
What do you think about it?
I think it's a brilliant piece of technology. It's not a card I'd think of playing in Modern, but when your opponent's just getting into these creature stalls, if they don't have a removal spell, there's not much they can do. We see a Liliana from Shuhei's side using the Cruel Edict portion of the card.
Cruel indeed, my friend.
Now with that Curt Ape off the table, yeah.
Lightning Bolt you, but it is far too late as Luis Scott-Vargas falls to Shuhei Nakamura 2-1. You know, Olivia Voldaren just really took over that board state. I mean, I think that it gave Luis such a short window with which to find an answer for Olivia Voldaren. I mean, the thing just took over.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean,
Count Dracula.
Yeah, right. Okay, Count Dracula. Yeah, the Lord of the Vampires was the gimmick of the card, and not only does it, you know, kill all of your opponent's creatures, which is huge, but I mean, it just grows and grows and grows.
Right, and that's the thing that you learn about that card. I've played it a bunch in limited or as many times as I could.
That must be nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. Is that it's cool to be able to kill a few of their guys or maybe even steal one. It all becomes fairly irrelevant fairly quickly when you're swinging for a 6/6 and a 7/7 in the air. If the thing's alive, it usually is just able to kill its opponent, you know, regardless of its other abilities. Just growing and getting bigger as a flyer is usually enough.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we saw in that game.
Yeah. All right, so back over here with Martin Yuuza versus Brian Kibler.
I have a Thoughtseize Confident hand for once. How about that?
We get a chance to listen to the players.
I mean, that is true. Those are some of the most important cards in the matchup.
Looking to face a greater challenge? Take your game to a Grand Prix and see how you fare against the best players in your region, as well as top visiting Magic pros. Upcoming Magic Grand Prix include Costa Rica, Moscow, San Jose, California, and Philadelphia. For more information, visit wizards.com/Grand Prix.
All right. Yuuza making some, I think re-sleeving or making some last-minute sideboarding decisions.
Little sleeve adjustments here.
If I win this, half my wins against Martin.
Little pre-rub-ins for Kibler.
1-0.
That's an interesting bit of trivia. You know, I wonder how much of those, that is a quirk of the format, is that it's not a round-robin style event like one might think with an event with only 16 players. It is Swiss, so several of the pairs have gotten paired against each other several times over the course of the tournament.
Yes, which maximizes trash talking. This is all friendly banter,
John,
though.
Eat a pizza?
There is pizza.
It's over there, though.
They're talking about pizza now.
I hope they're going to game 3. Because if they do, I'm getting pizza.
One of the benefits of making it to this level is that you get some food too.
Oh man, rock and roll lifestyle here at the Players Championship. I mean, yeah, I mean, you
Catered
see it again,
pizza.
Relatively casual atmosphere. I mean, these guys have practiced with each other for numerous tournaments.
Yeah, it's interesting how they can
forever.
go from the playful banter, talking about pizza and you know, bragging about how many times I beat you this tournament, to deadly serious when it comes down to the actual part of Magic. You know, there's no goofing around as far as the play goes.
No, and that, I mean, there's, like you said, you know, there's just a lot on the line
Yeah.
in a tournament like this. And, you know, a lot of tournaments you have to play against 300 people to win $40,000. This one, only 15 opponents.
Right. So Martin Yuuza is taking a very close look at his opening hand here. He is very much in the tank, thinking about if this is the type of hand that can win him a game.
It's a very awkward hand. It's got 5 lands,
Pretty sure you're
Tarmogoyf,
kidding as soon as you didn't say,
Bloodbraid
"Come
Elf.
You have no idea.
This is what we'd call a loose keep, I think.
A little bit of a loose keep. He says, I'll give it a shot. But Kibler just says keep.
Kibler's hand has everything he needs. Pair of Path Exiles, lands, dismembers, Spell Snare, can remove basically everything, and uses Threat Light hand. If Kibler's able to get anything on the board, this game's going to be over fast. And Yuuya going ahead and using his Ag land, not needing to wait till formally the end of the turn.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, you know that Kibler has a ton of answers to your Tarmogoyf, so is the first thing you want to be doing casting turn 4 Bloodbraid Elf against a deck that has both Mana Leak and Remand?
He's putting a lot of pressure on his initial draws here to be a lot of gas off the top. I mean, he's got to hit spell to be really happy. Was that a
That's
Thoughtseize? Hey.
Which is, you know, certainly the first spell. And Bloodbraid Elf does, you know, get you a 2-for-1 even through counter magic. So it's not the worst thing in the world.
And you need to just Thoughtseize here, right? Like, he can't run it like Tarmogoyf or whatever out, given the fact that Kibler's on is playing 4 spell snares.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I certainly. Maybe you could and just hope to get them, but I mean, I think you're probably right, Marshall, and that's what we see as Yuuya cast Thoughtseize. It also lets you play another one of your dual lands into play tapped, which in a format as tempo intensive as this, you know, every point of damage counts.
Yeah, especially when it's 2 points. They add up fast.
Right, exactly.
So it's kind of bad news here for Yuuya in the sense that, like, that Tarmogoyf is never, ever, ever sticking on the table. Now, he can resolve it.
Oh, yeah.
And turn it into a basic land.
That's true. Yeah, you can take Spellsphere and say, okay, well, at least I'm getting some more lands. Not that many basics in Yuuya's deck. I think you take Kitchen Finks right here, given that it's Kibler's only threat, and say, okay, well, now I have a lot more time to draw out of this mana flood.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Hey, good call, and that's exactly what he took.
And I expect him to just play either the Blood Crypt and to play tap, and that's what he does.
19 for Kibler.
Dragging Scalding Tarn, most likely getting a Hollowed Fountain to play tap.
Now, I don't think I've seen this card played sometimes. Is Yuuya running any Fulminator mages?
I don't believe he is.
Yeah, because that would be a pretty nice tool to take out those colonnades, but I don't think he's running it.
Yeah, that is a really good point, though. Kibler's deck has Tectonic Edge in order to get superiority with creature lands. Fulminator Mage is one way to do that. Works very nicely with Bloodbraid Elf, but Yuuya not playing that card right now.
Okay.
All right. So Yuuya, is that a Kitchen Finks of his own he drew there?
I do not see one, but oh, that last card maybe?
I think so, yeah, and
it is.
And he has Twilight Mire in order to turn his 2 Blood Crypts into the 2 green mana he needs for Kitchen Finks.
Yep. He's going to gain a couple life, and he's got a threat. It's interesting because, you know, one thing about the Jun deck is that it can go right into the control mode, right? I mean, it can go long game and just grind you out. 2 for 1 you, 2 for 1 you, 2 for 1 you, and eventually you don't have anything left.
Yuuya has drawn out of his mana flood pretty well here. The Kitchen Finks are going to gain him some life, eventually going to turn into a basic land, and then Bloodbraid Elf going to generate him some more advantage.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you don't want to Bloodbraid Elf and do a Terminate against an empty board, but if you hit a permanent, that can be extremely powerful. The Spell Snare from Kibler certainly holding the Tarmogoyf at bay, but not really doing a whole lot about that Kitchen Finks. Kibler drawing Seachrome Coast. Probably wants to play it here as his 3rd land.
Sure. I mean, you want to get it in while it's still untapped, and he just says go. Again, Kibler doesn't have a threat, although I do see a Restoration Angel in his hand now.
Right. And I think he would have wanted to cast that Kitchen Finks had he been able to. But a very, very relevant Thoughtseize out of Yuuya's side.
So we're predicting an attack and then a Path to Exile here, right?
I'm unsure. I mean, he might just take the damage. At this point, though, with Bloodbraid Elf, you probably
Cascade into Liliana of the Veil.
That's got to be exactly what he wants right now.
Okay, so Liliana resolves and Bloodbraid resolves.
Well, that's just a huge Liliana for Yuuya right here. He can discard excess lands, start hitting some of Kibler's spells, and at 4 loyalty on the Liliana after the activation, not a lot Kibler can do about it.
No, that's fantastic for Yuuya.
Kibler, tough choice right now. He has 2 paths to exile. Doesn't really want to take 6, but also the more paths he casts, the more likely he is to be discarding that Restoration Angel. Probably the first card he discards the excess Spell Snare, but the Tectonic Edge also important against Yuuya's Treetop Villages and Raging Ravines.
And, you know, Yuuya knows about that Spell Snare, and once that thing hits the bin, that also opens up the door for the Tarmogoyf to come down.
Exactly. Yeah, Kibler just in a very bad position.
He is in a
right
bad
now.
spot, you know, and one of the things that we normally would be seeing in Kibler's hand that would help him get out of this are Snapcaster mages, right?
Right.
You can just say, okay, I see he's got a Snapcaster mage or two, and he's going to be able to just grind, and, you know, 2-for-1s, get a bunch of value out of those Snapcasters, but he doesn't have that right now. There's 0 in his hand.
Right. And Snapcaster kind of Kibler's deck's version of Bloodbraid Elf. You know, get a creature on the table, get a removal spell. He does use Path on Bloodbraid Elf.
Now your hand is in 4 Treetop Villages. Little extra info.
Kibler remaining jovial.
So Yuza's board is empty, but the Bloodbraid Elf did a lot of work, turning into a land, a Path to Exile, and a Liliana of the Veil. Hard to do a lot better than that, and that Liliana is going to start ticking up.
Yep.
Okay.
He's doing it post-combat.
You have 2 cards?
I have 2 cards after I discard.
After he discards, he's going to have 2. He's got a Treetop Village and a Tarmogoyf. And the Spell Snare does go away.
Which, yeah, opens the door for Tarmogoyf. And that Tarmogoyf not going to be small. There's creature, land, instant in the graveyard, sorcery on Yuza's side. Tarmogoyf at least a 4/5.
Maybe even a Planeswalker at some point.
Right. Yeah,
And if
Liliana
is
hits
that
the
another
button.
Goyf? Wow. So he can actually just dump his hand here?
Yeah, I think that's what he does, is just play his Treetop Village, play his Paragoyfs, and start using Liliana as a totally one-sided effect.
Yeah, he's got to make sure he uses his mana correctly, which is no problem. He's got a
think it's a-
Twilight Mire that he can use as well.
It is
Instance, creature, land, sorcery. 4/5?
Sure.
That's what we counted too.
Sure.
Sure.
Whatever, it's Tarmogoyf, it's
You tell me.
resolved.
Yeah, it's on the table. That's all he cares about. And again, he does follow the path that we thought he would. Hollow Fountain hits the bin for Brian Kibler, leaving him with Restoration Angel, which is in play now.
Right.
And what's his other card?
I could not see his last card. That is a Vendilion, Threads of Disloyalty, I think. So that can definitely turn the tide. It's not something Yuza was playing around. Didn't see it with the Thoughtseize, but not only gives his Restoration Angel protection from Liliana, it removes Yuza's most substantial threat.
Oh, it was
no,
actually
sorry,
it was a
not-
dismember.
It does, right?
Yeah.
It does, right?
Yes, it in fact does.
That was in the new site. Yeah. If I waited until you use your Liliana, it wouldn't die, which is why I did that right now.
So in 5, a very convenient loyalty for Liliana of the Veil, giving it 2 remaining loyalty counters to get that Restoration Angel off the table.
Now, is that the plan?
I think so.
Since Kibler's hand is
Yeah,
empty, it's not doing a whole lot. It just dies to 1 attack, so you just use it as an edict and then just bash him.
Right. I mean, you've gotten several cards worth of value out of it at this point.
I think that was
Huge.
above too,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
huge
Oh,
Dark
man.
Confidant.
All right, so activate this thing. He's gonna he should do Liliana first though, because that's gonna get Liliana into the graveyard and get the Tarmogoyf even bigger.
Right. If assuming he cast Dark Confidant pre-combat.
Right. Which he should. Kibler is just empty-handed, right? All right, so he does that. It's gonna grow the Goyf
Five.
and a Tech Edge. Eats a Treetop Village. Again, no more monkey business. And boom, recovery plan.
Right. I mean, exactly what you want in a board state like this is 2 cards a turn, a 2/1, and a healthy 19 life. You're not gonna.
And he just drew a second Bob off of the first one. So Dark Confidant feeding into another Dark Confidant. And he's going to attack him for a ton.
Yeah, Kibler at 2, just not really a whole lot he can do. Wrath of God would be
Raging
huge,
too.
but even that wouldn't deal with the Raging Ravine. Now, Kibler draws Cryptic, I think, keeping him alive. But
It must not have been a Cryptic. And we have an equalized match here. Martin Yuza really, you know, he kept a hand that had a lot of land and needed some help. He found the help, and it really went his way.
yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know that I would have kept that hand, but you do have the Bloodbraid Elf getting you through counter
I'll
magic.
come with you.
The player's now stepping away from the table, and yeah, it definitely panned out for Yuza, that's for sure.
All right, we're going to be heading over to yet another match. We have non-stop match coverage for you here. We're going to go over to, looks like John Finkel, and he's playing against Yuuya Watanabe, and they are also tied at 1-1. So it's just a bevy of game 3s here. We already saw one from Luis versus Shuhei. We get another one here, and we're going to get one from Kibler versus Martin Yuza as well.
And all of these games, very high stakes. You know, the pack is very tight. You've got 4 players at 6 wins. You've got 5 players at 5 wins. Shota Yasuoka all the way up at 27 points. That would be 9 wins.
Yeah.
But you really need to differentiate yourself from the pack right now. Otherwise, you're not going to make it to the final day.
Now, is this the mirror? Did you say that? So we know that Finkel's on the same deck that Kibler's on. We also just saw him in the last round. What was Yuuya playing again? Did I already forget?
Also,
is he on Jun?
Yeah, he's on Jun. So it's going to be the same matchup we were just watching.
Okay.
Just 2 different players, Finkel and Yuuya Watanabe this time. They're shuffling up for game 3. You see a germ on the battlefield. Batterskull must have hit the board for Yuuya last game.
Ah, yes, a remnant germ just sitting there. Ooh, I think I want to find Yuuya Watanabe's sideboard here, but I think I saw a Nile Spellbomb that he just accidentally flipped up while shuffling, and there it is.
Okay.
That's pretty good versus Finkel and Kibler's, the Fibbler deck, as you
the Fibbler deck, as I was misstating in the previous round. Yeah, Nile Spellbomb at a very low cost certainly diminishes the impact of Snapcaster Mage. On the other end, makes your Tarmogoyfs a little bit worse.
A little bit worse. It does target theirs only. It's not like, because another option that you can use if you're worried about graveyards is Relic of Progenitus, but that if you actually activate it fully, takes all of the graveyards out, and then your Tarmogoyfs look a little sad.
Yeah, for sure.
Dak Faden is the greatest thief in the multiverse. Follow his adventures in the Magic the Gathering comic produced by IDW. A special promo card unique to the IDW comic series comes in each issue. Find out more about these comics at wizards.com/magicmerchandise.
Looks like Yuuya mulligans his first hand, John keeping.
Okay.
Mulligan's really important in a matchup like this where you're really grinding out resources. Also, when you need a lot of lands on the board to activate your creature lands. Mutavault and Colonnade from Finkel, Treetop Village, Raging Ravine from Yuuya. So Mulligan's pretty devastating in a matchup like this.
I find this matchup kind of interesting because the deck seems so different on the surface.
Right.
One is playing one end of the color pie, the other's playing the other colors. Like, they don't overlap at all. Yet what they're trying to do with their heart is actually very similar. Prevent you from doing things while applying pressure at some point in the game and getting a lot of 2-for-1. Snapcaster Mage, Bob. You've got, Bob is a consistent source, but you've got Snapcaster Mage, you've got Restoration Angel, you've got things like Cryptic Command, which can often be a 2-for-1. And then on the other end, you've got the Bloodbraid Elves of the world that we were talking about earlier. And it's interesting how they're both really trying to get this momentum of grinding you down.
Right, and there's really a lot of equivalencies in these decks. there's nothing quite like Geist of Saint Traft, but, Thoughtseize Inquisition, kind of like Mana Leak and Remand, they just take
Spellsnare.
Yeah, very much like Spellsnare, good point. And then on the other, Snapcaster Mage pairs up against Dark Confidant.
Yes.
Restoration Angel pairs up against Bloodbraid Elf.
Weird. There's a lot of correlates here. It's funny because they just don't even share one color.
Yeah, that's true. But and that sort of highlights the modern format, really about the ability to gain these advantages.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I think I favor the Jund deck in this particular matchup. And the reasoning is they do have 6 sources of hand destruction. They have the 2 Thoughtseize and the 4 Inquisitions. And that's just something that blue-white can't do. They have to wait until you do something. And when you're talking about dealing with things like Inquisition of Kozilek, you get the added bonus of seeing their hand.
That's true. There is a comparative effect in Vendilion Click out of the blue-white deck. Now, Click obviously gives your opponent a card back, so the information's not perfect, but it comes with a 3-1 evasive body, which is no slouch either, especially against the Liliana of the Veils out of the Jund deck.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it also kind of highlights why Vendilion Click is so awesome, right? It's doing things that a lot of blue doesn't normally get to do.
That's true. Now, a comparatively unexciting hand for Yuuya here. We see he has Dark Confidant, but no black mana to cast it. Just Treetop Village and Forest. Not what you want in a 3-color deck. And Finkel capitalizing on that with a Geist of Saint Traft. Yuuya better have an answer in a hurry, or that's just going to eat his
You could play like
life
he doesn't. He could go Twilight Mire, Liliana.
Right. Oh, that would be tremendous.
Yeah,
and he has a Liliana, but no Twilight Mire right now.
Pretty sure that's a 1-up for him. And all of a sudden, John Finkel's in the driver's seat here, able to apply massive pressure with just the one creature in Geist of St. Traft hitting so hard.
Yeah, and Finkel, I mean, it's a question here whether you want to apply further pressure with Kitchen Finks, but he just says go. Having both Cryptic Command and Restoration Angel, he can play another threat if he needs to. He can counter this Kitchen Finks if he needs to. You have to think that's going to be exactly what he does.
Now, do you just draw a card? Or do you, like, get greedy and bounce one of the Treetop Villages or something?
I think you draw a card. If you bounce a Treetop Village, you can just replay it.
Right.
And having an extra card in matchups that's this dependent about cards, I can't overstate the importance
Also,
of that.
he didn't have another land drop, so it wouldn't even have cost him a land drop to do that.
Right, exactly.
Because you can halt the momentum of his lands, but if he doesn't have another, it doesn't even get you.
No, that's so true. Now, we're attack for 8 damage. Yuuya only at 14. Yuuya really needs to mount a defense next turn. Or it's going to be the match. And Liliana doesn't even help him here because
And he has all black cards in hand. He needs a red source for his Bloodbraid Elf, and he doesn't have it, and he extends the hand. You know, he kept a sketchy one. He needed to hit a black source. If he did, I think he felt like he could do a lot of grinding. But, man, cards like Geist of St. Traft punish you so hard if you do stumble at all.
Yeah, really unforgiving cards, 6 damage at a time in a really unforgiving format. There's so many powerful things happening that, you know, if you fall behind, you're either going to get killed, whether it's by a step linked or being buried in advantage by an opponent's Dark Confidant. You know, if you're not presenting threats in the early turns of the game, it's going to be very, very hard for you to come back.
Right.
So we get to go back and see the same matchup yet again.
Yeah, you can see the feature match area here, and they're going to be moving the cameras. We've done a really, this has been sweet. We've got to see a little bit of all of these matches and all of the Game 3s as well, bringing you all of the excitement here from the Players' Championship in Seattle. For those of you just joining, I am Marshall Sutcliffe. This is Zach Hill. We are in the booth together, and we are going to see Game 3 here of Brian Kibler on the right-hand side, and we're taking a look on the screen at Martin Juza, and he does have really an ideal turn 1 play.
Yeah, you really want that turn 1 discard spell, especially when you're on the draw, because it can keep you from getting behind on tempo advantage. Really challenging take here. I mean, if Juza has a Dark Confidant, maybe you take Remand, make him dismember it. Maybe you take a Kitchen Finks here so he doesn't have a threat.
Dismember Finks, Remand, Angel.
But he also has a Vanillion Click. Really a lot of redundancy in Kibler's hand right now.
I see a Terminate, a Kitchen Finks, I think a Bloodbraid Elf, and a Maelstrom Pulse.
Okay, so Juza has removal. Has things to do about the Restoration Angel.
Yeah, I don't think he cares about the Angel. That's something that he can just take care of. Maybe the Vendilion Click. He doesn't want something to happen there. He takes the Remand, it turns out.
So what that signals is just a very aggressive hand. He doesn't want to fall behind on tempo. I think I would have to take Kitchen Finks there. It's pretty much a guaranteed 2-for-1, and the life matters, too, in this matchup.
Ooh, so. Liliana of the Veil comes off the top here as well. That's an interesting one. And so are we going to see a draw step click here? No. Ooh. Oh, and he has no other lands here. Now we're going to see the Vendilion Click come down. And he's going to target himself with it. Now, this is something that people don't do often, and he's just going to get rid of the Kitchen Finks to draw a card. Does this signal to you that Kibler's looking for another land?
Yeah, it signals to me that Kibler just can't cast Kitchen Finks, which is why Juza didn't take it. I mean, Kibler's playing a 2-color deck, so I have to assume he'll be able to cast it at some point. But
all right, so while this was still on the end step of Martin Juza, he does terminate. He doesn't want to take any damage or let anything happen.
Yeah, he doesn't want to let him Restoration Angel either. So both players kind of stalled on mana, really awkward draws.
All right, well, that's a good one, except for that it is untapped. And another Vendilion Click, and he's going to target himself again. I see a Baneslayer in his hand. I don't think Kibler has the heart to bend the Baneslayer, or does he? He does.
Baneslayer.
He laughs about it. That's one of his favorite cards, and it was instrumental to his victory at the Pro Tour.
Juza again holding him up as he's tapped out. Doesn't really have a removal spell he can cast, but he certainly at least wants to represent that he can do something about it. And that's what happened. I mean, he just didn't have anything to do. But no reason to let your opponent know that.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're 15. I was like, what are you talking about? Go ahead.
Kibler sometimes blunt.
Yeah, he's very comfortable with Juza not going to pull any punches. All right, so decisions. He can just try to run the Liliana out there to try to take care of the Vendilion Click, or he can see if the coast is clear with the Thoughtseize, he can also just Maelstrom Pulse of Vendilion Click. He's got a lot of options here. I mean, isn't Mana Leak the only thing that can really counter those spells here?
Yeah, if you Edict the Vendilion Click, you're giving Kibler an opportunity to Path to Exile his own card, basically turning it into a white Rampant Growth at instant speed for a white mana, which is not really what you want to do when Kibler's behind on lands. I think, I mean, that's certainly the line.
Do you make it a blue mana? Kibler does have a...
with Cryptic in your hand, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, with Cryptic, yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, and he does, in fact, path his own creature. I mean, Yuza is still having Liliana at 1 counter, but ticking it up is kind of bad for both of them.
Yes. Interestingly here, the Baneslayer Angel that's on the bottom of the library that Kibler was joking about just a minute ago, it's going to be somewhere else now, maybe.
Yeah, no, we were talking about getting a 3rd blue for Cryptic. I didn't think about this when I said it, but holding Cryptic in your hand against the active Liliana kind of bad. What you want is the 2nd plane so you can cast a Kitchen Finks, which the Jund deck has kind of a hard time dealing with. Yuza can't even cast his own Kitchen Finks.
Oh, I didn't know that he had another Kitchen Finks. Okay, because we did see him Vendilion Click away a Finks, but it looks like he's got another.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, I mean, you can always draw it, right?
Sure,
You've got a couple copies in your deck, and Cryptic Command not really doing a whole lot.
She's
right
another Vendilion Click. He's just got infinite Vendilion Clicks. Now, it is important to note here that while that does let him choose cards to get rid of his hand so he can cycle through and get more, you know, it's not actual card advantage no matter which way he does it, but he's certainly getting a big advantage off of these cards.
Kibler passing the turn because he's holding a Restoration Angel and Cryptic Command. I think he's just kind of daring Yuza to activate Liliana. Just kind of saying, all right, you know.
I mean, Yuza has a ton of cards in hand. He can't cast very many of them.
No, he just drew Thoughtseize, but Thoughtseize is going to cost him actually a substantial percentage of his turn.
Yep. I mean, does he have any other plays here? There's nothing to Maelstrom Pulse. He can't Bloodbraid. He can't Olivia Voldaren.
He has a 4th land to Bloodbraid if he wants to.
Ah, okay. I didn't see that.
But I think you want to Thoughtseize first and make sure no shenanigans are happening.
So if you're Brian Kibler, do you take this opportunity to get the Restoration Angel down? Do you play the Vendilion Click?
Okay. I think you just sort of let him take something.
You just let him take. He's going to take something, so you just let him.
Right. There's not too many good things for him to take. I mean, you know, you can't cast Cryptic Command, so.
Right.
And you don't really want to tap low for Restoration Angel because he can just cast one of his sorcery speed removal spells like Maelstrom Pulse, and he won't be able to get rid of that Liliana.
Right, and you just don't want to give him the opportunity to do that.
Precisely.
But you just played that land, right?
Can I play this land?
Oh, you played that. Okay, never mind. Yeah. yeah. No, that was 1, 2, 3. Yeah. No worries. It was just on that side, and I thought you put it down over there.
That coming up because Black Cleave Cliffs, if it was the 4th land, would enter the battlefield tapped.
Right.
Yuza would not be able to embark upon this line of play at all.
Yep. Nothing wrong with double checking there.
Yeah, of course not.
All right. So, what do you take here? He's got a pretty nice grip, really.
Yeah, the thing is, like, taking Restoration Angel probably going to be the target because it's hard for to deal with. But I mean, Kibler can still just cast Vendilion Click.
Right.
It's just a really intricate matchup. No really clear answers.
No, there's not. This is very, very complex. You know, I think what a lot of this comes down to is at the player level, they have to decide what their line of play is going to be. And I think you could probably choose a few different ones. Like, is he going to be Kitchen Finksing here? It looks like it.
15.
You know, but I mean, he could have had a whole nother line in mind. Again, now he's got the decision of, do I activate Liliana of the Veil?
Right.
If he does, it accomplishes 2 things. It take, you know, in that it does make Kibler discard as well, but it also means that it's active. Right now, it's something that Kibler wants to kill at some point because it's got 2 counters and can get another edict out of it.
Yeah, you know, I'll say I don't hate the play of in response to Thoughtseize. Your opponent plays his 4th land with a grip full of cards. So if he's casting Thoughtseize, you have to assume he has a 3-drop.
You just click him?
Yeah, clicking him in response and taking whatever his 3-drop isn't the worst thing in the world.
Now, what if he has 2 3-drops?
Then you're in
really
bad shape.
But that's actually very unlikely because, I mean, Kitchen Finks is one of the only ones that you really care about here, right? A second Liliana Veil doesn't do anything.
Right. If he wants to cast a second Liliana...
That resolves. All right, and so he did. We see the Cryptic Command does get bent, you know, because he can't play it. And I think it was one Maelstrom Pulse. I can't quite see. It's a little bit off camera.
Kitchen Finks.
Oh, a Finks. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Wait, he played a Finks. Did Martin just have two?
No, you're right.
I think it might have been a second Maelstrom pulse.
All right.
Can't quite see it, though.
What are you doing here?
Again, more decisions.
I think so.
Uh-oh, man down. Got a couple of cards on the table.
I mean, Olivia Voldaren, huge problem for you. Can kill that. Can kill Click with value. On the other end, Bloodbraid Elf automatically 2 cards, even if you counterspell it.
Absolutely. The Maelstrom Pulse doesn't do quite as much. The assumption here is that the Vendilion Click is going to be killing Liliana of the Veil, I'm assuming, so that's not going to be an issue anymore. And remember,
I'll take Bloodbraid.
he takes Bloodbraid. After all of these decisions, Martin Yuuya gets a draw card now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And
he draws a
Tarmogoyf. So no real ease.
A real threat here.
Oh, Tarmogoyf's huge right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a Planeswalker in the graveyard.
Planeswalker just died.
Yeah, thanks. 22.
Finks.
See a Finks of Kibler's own.
Destroy Village. Sure.
And main phase Tectonic Edge from Kibler, keeping Yuuya off 4 mana for the Olivia. Now, Kibler has Dismember in his hand, so he's capable of dealing with it as the last card. But a Bloodbraid Elf that Yuuya just drew, huge play for him, although he can't cast it.
He cannot cast it yet because of the limit. Now, that's interesting because he had 2 shots at it.
Right.
One from the Vendilion Click, one from his draw step, and he hasn't hit that land. Another thing to consider are the enter the battlefield tap lands that Yuuya has. He could draw something like a Treetop Village, a Raging Ravine, and still have an enter the battlefield tapped.
Now, Kibler offers the trade with Kitchen Finks because he has his own Restoration Angel.
Right.
So being able to reset Finks is just like being up another card right here. Kibler keeping Hallowed Fountain in his hand, either to draw out a discard spell after Angel gets cast, or is that not Angel? So Kibler's light speeding his cards.
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to see.
He's traditionally
what's
one of the tough ones.
Oh no, it's not. It's Dismember like we talked about.
Right, Dismember and a Hallowed Fountain.
I thought it was a Restoration Angel, in which case the trade would be tremendously beneficial for Kibler, but that is not.
How big is it?
Zigoif, how big is it, he says?
5,
I think it's a 5/6.
Okay.
So just out of Dismember
Which is
range.
super relevant here, you know, because of Dismember. He's going to have to combine some type of combat to make that work.
Right. Now, he can make it a 0/1 and block with Finks, so that's close to doing something, but I think you just take a couple of hits from Tarmogoyf, given that you know Olivia Voldaren is in Yuuya's hand.
I mean, Kibler is at 24 here.
Right. He
So-
can afford to take some damage.
Yeah. All right, now we do see a Blood Crypt for Martin Yuuya. It's going to drop him to 15, but the Bloodbraid party has just begun. That's the first of at least 2. Inquisition you. Now that plan is much less good. If he does Dismember, he's going to take 4 damage, and he will prevent the attack from Tarmogoyf, but yeah, he's just going to have to use it to kill a creature.
Kibler in horrifically bad shape
Yeah,
right here.
I guess kill that one then. Good point.
Oh, because so
Bloodbraid
what
Elf not
happens
in
is,
play.
yeah, it's not in play yet. The Inquisition from the Cascade is going to resolve first. He says we could. Martin said we should call it.
So you have
judge.
what? You have
Scalding Tarn.
Scalding Tarn.
Nuts.
We don't know if Kibler sided in Wrath of God here, but that's basically what he needs to draw from this board state.
Right, he attacks with a Tarmogoyf, but he doesn't want to trade off the Bloodbraid Elf. And the main reason I think is because he knows he's going to Bloodbraid Elf again next turn, and he could just hit a removal spell. He wants it to be able to hit that Kitchen Finks.
Exactly. Now he did draw a Snapcaster Mage,
Oh, okay.
which can take care of both the Bloodbraid Elf and the Tarmogoyf. If there's a Path to Exile, Dismember again can be used on Kitchen, or after he blocks with Kitchen Finks in order to take out the Tarmogoyf. So Snapcaster Mage, not a bad top deck right here, but a handful of threats for Yuuya, and Yuuya just trying to decide which one he wants to cast.
So it looks like he's going to hold off, and so I'm assuming that we're going to be seeing Olivia Voldaren. Then he could also just cast Bob, but he wants to use up his mana. Snapcaster Mage.
Oh, Snapcaster and Cryptic.
Cryptic Command.
For a lot of value.
Alright.
For a lot of
right
value.
now.
So are we going to see just a counter draw?
That's,
Counter draw.
yeah. And Kibler
There's an
confirms
echo,
that.
yes.
He can hear us. No. He's just that attuned to the needs of the commentating.
Yes, he is.
And I mean, you just need to look at as many cards as possible if you're Kibler right now. You've got to want to draw like a Restoration Angel.
No handwriting.
Kibler criticizing somebody for their handwriting has a bit of irony to it.
Oh,
If you've ever looked at a Kibler deck list.
I don't know how our judges do it.
Yeah.
Zero.
Workers.
Yep.
All right, So did Kibler draw? There it is. Did not see what it was.
I think I was gonna say Restoration Angel, but I've been wrong about that card before.
It is a Restoration Angel,
All right.
however.
This time around, 50-50.
So he can Restoration Angel the Kitchen Finks. He can do the Snapcaster Mage. He's got some options. Is there a Path to Exile in the graveyard for Kibler?
Cards.
Not sure. It'd be very strange for him not to have seen one thus far, but I mean,
It would be. It's definitely possible. I don't remember him pathing anything.
I think Kibler trying to decide right now if he wants to go on the offensive. 9, kind of a precarious life total, but uses 15. Not very many. Yeah, okay, yeah. Rashad brings up from the floor. No basic land on Yuza's side, so no paths likely to have been cast, and in fact, they have not.
Sure.
Snapcaster.
Oh,
There is a Path to Exile.
Okay.
So he discarded it to
Liliana.
Liliana. Yeah. So that is one of the few ways it can get in there.
Yeah, well, some discards.
To either Liliana or Inquisition or something like that. But this, Martin Yuza's deck does have the ability to get things in the graveyard without having them been resolved.
The value on these Restoration Angels is just unbelievable.
I mean, you're talking about Restoration Angeling a Snapcaster Mage here. That can turn things around very quickly.
Right, especially with cards like Path to Exile in the format.
Now, Martin Yuza is sitting at
Martin
13
quickly
life,
like
and
3. It's like, what?
But the Snapcaster Mage important now because it's sort of Liliana the Veil insurance. Being able to keep the 3/4 on the table right now, huge, and the momentum's really shifted in Kibler's favor after he top-decked that Snapcaster Mage into Cryptic Command, into Restoration Angel, into Path to Exile. A lot of work being done by just those 2 cards.
Yeah, and it looks like Liliana the Veil, it might be the play here. Martin uses at a relatively comfortable life total at 13. He's not under immediate duress here.
Yeah, and he's got Confidant to get the card flow going.
He does. Now, he's got to be a little concerned, though. Just, you know, Dark Confidant can do some pretty serious damage to you as well, but you got to go for it here.
Right. You're right, though. I mean, you're right to point out Dark Confidant does have a drawback.
Yes.
It's not just an additional card every turn.
Right. You hit a Bloodbraid Elf or 2, and all of a sudden the clock gets very short.
You're at 13, Kibler says.
Rather ominously. Now, Kibler does not have one of the key cards really in his deck, which is Celestial Colonnade here. That would be a total beating, but he doesn't have it.
The Finks still pretty substantial, though. Deals with Dark Confidant, resilient against removal. Kibler attacks Juza rather than Liliana, so as not to get hit with the Edict next turn, and because he doesn't care too much about the discard. He has no cards in his hand.
Right, Jund Charm is revealed, and it's going to do 3 to Martin Yuza to drop him to 7, I believe.
Yes.
Brian Kibler's back up to 11 after the Kitchen Finks.
7 to 11. I gained,
Kibler confirming the life total.
Man, it really felt like Martin Yuza was in the driver's seat, but a Snapcaster Mage and a Restoration on a Snapcaster Mage later, and it feels actually like the momentum is swung fully back towards Kibler.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we compared Restoration Angel to Bloodbraid Elf earlier, and we saw Bloodbraid Elf get a card, you know, get a removal spell, but Restoration Angel doing very similar things.
Absolutely. And at instant speed, I might add.
Right, and a 3/4 flyer as opposed to a 3/2 haste.
Right.
So once they're on the board, Restoration Angel, a lot of advantage there, especially when it comes to doing things like attacking Planeswalkers if you need to, or simply racing a Dark Confidant. Wow, Yuza says the Jund Charm can deal with the Finks sort of at the cost of his Dark Confidant, not what he wants. Could conceivably make his Confidant bigger. If Finks ever hits the graveyard, could exile it in response.
Removes both graveyards or just one?
Target graveyard, I think, for Jund Charm.
So you hear the players asking about Jund Charm. They're going to get an Oracle reading.
I don't know. I think it's target player's graveyard from the game.
I also think it's target.
Yeah. Reed has spoken. He's played a lot of Jund.
Target player, right? All right.
Getting word from the spectators as to what the card does.
I mean, when the spectators happen to be Reed Duke and Owen Turtenwald.
But you might be asking why Yuza is asking about his own card, but it is not in English.
It is not a non-English card. Or is
Those
it?
foreign cards, you should really know what they do.
All right, so interestingly, Yuuya had an English Jund Charm, and he lent it in there, just
Very appropriate.
being very helpful.
So Judge Charm does 3 separate things, but not a lot of them tremendously useful right
they
now.
don't do much here.
And,
He can survive a turn for sure. I mean, sometimes getting your guy off the table is actually better for you. Your Bob.
Sure, yeah, when you're at 7 life.
And presumably going to be at least 4.
On the other hand, I mean, you really need to rip a creature removal spell for that Restoration Angel, or it doesn't matter what your life total is. It's going to get rid of all of it eventually.
Gotta have it. So, you know, right now he's deciding if he wants to plus Liliana, he would lose Treetop Village.
Yeah, and he wouldn't really gain a whole lot. I mean, he would threaten Edict next turn, but like Treetop Village, very important threat right here. What it is not, however, is a blocker. So, yeah, I mean, it's a realistic choice for him.
It definitely is. Also, you know, it opens himself out to get outplayed in some ways as well, in that, you know, Kibler can just not attack with his Kitchen Finks, which kind of turns off the Jun Charm in a big way and puts a lot of pressure back on Martin Juza again to use it. All right, so he does discard, so he wants to have the Edict effect there, maybe hoping that Kibler will attack Liliana with something and to take a little bit of the heat just to get him another chance to answer that Restoration Angel.
Right, if Kibler attacks with both of his creatures and doesn't draw anything, I think Yuuya blocks with Dark Confidant, exiles the Graveyard with Jun Charm.
When the Kitchen Finks is in it.
Exactly, so that it doesn't come back to persist. If Kibler attacks Yuuya again as opposed to Liliana, which is what we saw last turn, he could Edict with Liliana. So Yuuya is forcing Kibler to attack Liliana with Restoration Angel.
Yep. And he's thinking about it, doing a little math here. He did draw a Vendilion Click as well, so the threats never end.
We see Kibler thinking about the attack.
Liliana,
deciding.
Attack Liliana, attack you. So I think that is the play we're going to see here.
Right, and I expect Yuuya to go down to 4 and bury his Liliana. Otherwise, the Dark Confidant kind of a liability, but I mean, you really need cards right now.
Yeah, you do. This is such a tough spot. Because if he can get that Restoration Angel off the table, then he's actually stabilized. Now, he doesn't know, of course, that Kibler also has another 3 power flying threat in his hand, but assuming that Kibler has a land, for example, such a tough choice.
A card you'd really want right now is a card in the old Jun decks from Standard. I think Bituminous Blast would be an absolute savaging.
Yeah, it sure would. Takes care of that Angel and then just gets you a ton of value on the other end.
That card, however, not in Martin Yuuya's deck.
Correct.
All right, and we're seeing him, I mean, at 7 life, he does kind of just not need to take damage, so he does.
Resist?
Yeah.
Oh, he says okay?
Oh.
I go to 11 again.
I mean, he can just Jun Charm him.
Yeah, he can add the Pyroclasm ability, which is relevant if Kibler uses Vendilion Click.
Oh, he just uses it now anyway, though.
He fetched, right?
I did fetch, I went from 11 to...
Oh, yeah.
So why would he let him gain those 2 extra life?
You don't trust me either.
That just seems like a mistake to me.
Yeah, I think that was just
I can't... I mean, I guess in case he casts something post-combat, but not getting 2 life and getting rid of all the Snapcaster Mage targets seems far superior to me.
As you draw, Kibler says, so he's taking a look at the Kitchen Finks, which was actually a reasonable draw here, but maybe not the best case scenario, and he just slams it onto the table, gains a couple of life, and passes it back. Takes attack you for 6. He goes down to 3.
Huge for Kibler.
And Colonnade 2, and ground out he was. Wow, that is the match. And Kibler defeats Martin Yuuya here after just a super grindy game.
Really grindy game, lots of back and forth. You know, grindy usually.
Like the flashback, but yeah, you might be right.
Let's listen to what they're saying.
I think they were talking about the Jun Charm play.
Okay. You were so dead.
I was pretty dead.
It was looking pretty bad there, yeah. You a Snapcaster, Cryptic, Angel, Click.
It went from looking really bad to looking really good.
Jeez.
You get a sense for the emotions there from Martin Yuuya, and he's echoing a lot of the comments that we had from here in the booth of it looks so good for Martin Yuuya, and all of a sudden he was dead.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly were saying that Yuuya was behind, but...
Yeah. Welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. This is Zach Hill. And wow, I mean, Like these matches in Modern can be so swingy. We can see things look so in favor of one guy, and then it's like string together some 2-for-1s and some value plays, and the momentum's just back in the other direction.
Well, especially given decks like Jund and like the blue-white deck that Kibler is piloting. A lot of the deck's composition is early defense. Cards like Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Spell Snare, Path to Exile. Some really marginal cards, very limited in scope, don't really accomplish a lot, but the whole reason you're playing them is to survive to cast these extraordinarily high impact cards like Restoration Angel, Bloodbraid, Elf. And so one of the reasons we're seeing these very swingy games is that the decks are designed to cast very swingy cards.
Yeah, and as you can see, they do a good job. I mean, we saw swingy cards from both ends of the table there, and we're going to be seeing more of that as we proceed further into this tournament. But for now, I'm told that they're ready at the news desk, so why don't we send it over there? And yeah, we're going to be back tomorrow.
I think we got one more match.
Do we? Oh, that was only... Jeez, these things are... Let's send it back to the news desk, and we'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Welcome back to Studio B. I'm Sheldon Menery. I have a rare treat for you. We are joined by Hall of Famer and friend of mine, Bob Marr. Thanks for coming, sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
So what brings you into town?
I came into town for work. We've got PAX going on this weekend, and I'm president of a game distribution company, ACD Distribution. So I came in for meetings with Wizards of the Coast yesterday, just kind of hanging around, watching the event today, and I start up my meetings again tomorrow out at PAX.
So how much Magic did you get to watch today?
I watched a lot of today, and I really enjoyed it. It's neat to see. I mean, even for me, these are tier 1 players, and it's really enjoyable to see that kind of Magic being played.
Do you find yourself watching the matches as sort of as an enjoyment thing, or are you trying to break down the lines of play? It's like, because you're usually over one guy's shoulder or the other with a camera angle. You can see his hand. Are you, quietly enjoying the match, good Magic, or are you figuring out what you would do in that situation?
I'm usually more testing myself. I'm trying to figure out what I would probably do in that situation, seeing if I still have a touch to try and figure out what my opponent would be holding in their hand at that point, seeing if the game progresses the way I would expect, and also learning a lot. I mean, the people, like I said, they're incredible players out there. And
well, these 16 guys have gotten here through showing that they can win Magic tournaments.
Yeah.
And, so you're qualified as a Hall of Famer for each Pro Tour. What's it gonna take for us to get you back to playing at the Pro Tour regularly?
I stopped playing on the Pro Tour regularly when I started my family. But now my twin girls are 7, I have a 5-year-old girl and an almost 3-year-old boy, and it's actually starting to become a little more legitimate for me to travel and do some of these things again. And they're a little easier to handle at home. And I've already gotten the blessing from my family and my people at work that if I want to go back and hit the tour, feel free. I had every intention of going to a couple of PT stops this year. It just didn't work with my schedule, but next year I'm planning to go back out there and see what happens.
So the 7-year-olds, they're already ready to start teaching how to play Magic, right?
Magic, maybe I'll start them off with Kaijudo. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, so it's been quite some time since you've played regularly.
Yes.
What changes do you most recognize in the game from then to now?
Well, I mean, there's been certainly a conscious change just in the way the cards are designed. I mean, back when I played regularly, it was a lot more spell-centric, whereas now it's so much more creature combat. And it's just a much more enjoyable way to play the game. I mean, even when you're losing, the game is more fun from a very basic level all the way up to the PT. When there's creature combat and cards moving around the table, it's just a lot more interactive. It's a lot harder to get a totally one-sided match.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben Stark at one of the legacy GPs, I think, and he was well known and still is for being a great limited player. And limited is about a lot of combat. So if you're really good at limited, you're generally really good at combat. And he said bringing better creatures and more creature combat crosses the line now where you can translate your limited skills into your constructed skills.
Yeah, you can definitely translate those skills over a little more, and it's much harder for a player to totally ignore that portion of the game. I mean, back in the day, you could still be a professional Magic player and more often than not play decks that had no creatures in them.
Those were times when spells when spells were spells, and we played like 2 Serra Angels in our deck. And, I think that the game stays fresh because it changes. If we were still playing Brian Weissman's deck 15 years later, folks wouldn't be flocking to the game like they are now.
That's what makes it exciting. That's what keeps it fresh. Absolutely.
You've been here today, seen some of the Magic Players Championship. You like this format?
I think it's great. I think it is a really good use of the talent, and I think it's a lot of what people want to see at home. I know among all my friends, as I check my Twitter feed, I mean, everybody's talking about it, everybody's watching, and people seem to be enjoying the matches that are being played. I think it's great that they're playing interesting formats and doing some fun things out there.
We were together at Gen Con a little bit and got to play. I think you sat in for a few turns playing one of my Commander decks with a friend of ours, Dave Williams, and Adam Sporski, Scott Larrabee, some folks. Did you play any at Gen Con?
I entered the Vintage event. Every year I try and clear because I work in the games industry, Gen Con's a very busy event for me. I always try and clear my schedule to play in the Vintage Champs. I don't know, I like playing with the old cards, putting down Lotuses, doing ridiculous things on turn one. But it did not go well this year. I did not beat a human being. Took a loss, got a bye, took another loss, and then the day was over.
So liking those old cards, you must really enjoy the cube format.
Oh, I think Cube is great. I think it's a lot of fun. It's just a wild mix. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, you're talking about a draft format where people are ending up with more or less constructed decks. It's a lot of fun.
We saw yesterday on the broadcast, like old school Magic getting played in the Cube draft. Saw a guy sinkhole a Keldor Outpost. Saw a guy with Necropotence in play him to Torok.
Yeah.
So it's Cube's a format. Cube's a format.
I'm just really happy they're embracing some more enjoyable ways of playing the game. They're not trying to put it in a very, very narrow definition. I mean, they've really opened it up.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go home and build a cube. I mean, if you have any ideas, ship them my way.
So a lot of times for me, what's the most fun is seeing what everybody else puts together, going to events and playing your different Commander decks. That's a lot of the fun for me. It's fresh.
I'm thinking Cube might be Commander draft. There's got to be some crossover, because Cube is like Commander is kind of battle cruiser-ish Magic. There's a lot of big, crazy things happening instead of worrying about mana curves and
a lot of heavy hitters swinging back and forth
and incremental advantages and whatnot. So you had something you want to talk about, Magic players helping?
One of my good friends who's playing in this event, John Finkel, we're both on the board of directors for a nonprofit we put together called Gamers Helping Gamers. And it's a scholarship program for Magic players who are headed to college or in college, just could use some help. We awarded a couple of scholarships this year, and it's something we both really believe in. John has donated a portion of some of his past winnings, and we get together. We're starting to ramp up, maybe kind of doing some events here and there and things like that. But we feel like it's a really good cause, and we've tried to put a lot of effort behind it.
So I've got some GI benefits that'll send me back to school. Would I be eligible for?
Absolutely, everybody's eligible.
All right. Like I said, we had a rare opportunity to talk to Hall of Famer Bob Marr. It's always great to see. I mean, we only see each other 2 or 3 times a year now instead of all the time at the professional events. So thanks for coming in and talking to us. We will see you soon rather than later.
Thank you very much for having me.
Rich Hagon is going to come in and sit down, take Bob's place, and we are going to talk about the exciting events of that last round. We see, there he is, Rich Hagon.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, absolutely startling stuff. It looks to me like we've got the big board ready. Once again, here's your government health warning. The pairings are not set up so that literally the tie breaks work as the scoreboard shows. But let's give you full screen on the master scoreboard and take you through it with 1 round to go. Utterly dominant. It's Shota Yasuoka. Showtime delivers at the showbox. 10-1. That's crazy against this field. Then you've got John Finkel there, arguably the greatest player of all time, at 7-4. Well, he's not safe, but he's in a great position.
He's certainly winning in.
That is certain, yes. But now we have 94,000 people at 6-5, and if you imagined this as a top 8 right now for a regular Pro Tour, Yuuya Watanabe, Shuhei Nakamura, Paolo Vita Dama de Rosa, Junior Ianaga, Martin Juza, Brian Kibler, that's just bonkers. Just silly.
Yes, translating Rich Ease into
English?
into English, 90,000 actually means 6
That's
players
right.
tied at 6 and 5.
Exactly, because obviously we were a little shy of 90,000 coming in this weekend. As you can see, then you've got all your 5s and 6s down the back end. Here, I'll get my ugly face out the way. Hayne, Turtenwald, Utter-Leighton, Scott-Vargas, Istrati, Anachoa, all at 5 and 6, and then Sue, Chinquo, and Reduke behind the field at the moment. Now, the pairings are going to get very, very complicated in this last round. I know that the pairings are set, but you're not going to play against people you've already played in Modern, that you could find that there are some 7 and 4s maybe playing a 5 and 6. The 6 and 5s obviously will be there. Somebody will be the sacrificial lamb, maybe it's John, up against Shota Yasuoka, who, just invites them in and then destroys them handily.
But the way this format is structured, there's no easy matches here. I mean, because even these guys in the 5 and 6 bracket are competing for pro points.
Yeah.
There's not, well, I'm out of it. I'll just there's not going to be any of that. I'm going to play because up one single pro point, that means a lot down the road to these players.
And not just out of it, but also I think there was one match, and I'm sure I could go back in time and find a bunch. But there was one match I saw where I thought, okay, this is different. If there's one thing that encapsulates this tournament, it's different to any other. Brian Kibler at 6 and 5 right now. He was at 5 and 4 a little while back, and he was playing against Owen Turtenwald at 4 and 5. Teammates,
Right.
Great friends. Any number of good reasons for Owen to say at 4 and 5, 7 and 5 probably not getting me in. Brian, you're 5 and 4 already. 6-4. Thanks. Let's go and have a coffee. Didn't happen. Owen beats him 2-1. Pro point to me for the Player of the Year. Still in there fighting. He, now at 5 and 6, he will not repeat as Player of the Year. That means Brian at 6 and 5. Maybe 7 and 5 is enough, but maybe that playing in that round 10 makes a difference. But one pro point just ensures you always play.
It's one of the things I like about the format. There's no easy matches at the end. There's no giving up. There's always constant fighting. Kind of like the Skins at Pro Tour Philadelphia. There was something on the line in every match, and that makes for good magic.
Yeah, and for Reed Duke, there he is at the bottom of the pile. But he's got a pro point on the line in this next match. And in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, maybe he's a Platinum Pro because of the next hour of magic for Reed Duke. So everything to play for. Now there's one more very important thing we want to go through with you again, because we're into the tie-break time. Number 1 is head-to-head this week. Never mind what they've played in the past at F&M or Grand Prix or Pro Tours. In this tournament.
What a tiebreaker that would be.
Yeah, the 27-15 to Luis over a Showa in Friday Night Magic, because they're from the same place, who knew? So first tiebreak head-to-head. Let's take a look at the second tiebreak up on the board. So this is the pro points from the last season. Sheldon explained it to you earlier. If you weren't here at the end of the last round, where have you been? I guess some of them have been working.
Yeah.
Foolish on a Thursday. Who would do that?
Well, when there's great magic to watch, certainly.
Exactly. So there is the tiebreak 2. So as you can see, Yuuya Watanabe, if it turns out that the head-to-head can't settle things, he and Brian Kibler are very much in the box seat. So I can tell you that we have the pairings for the final round. And as we said, there's going to be a lot of up and down. So let me tell you what we've got. Here we go. Shota Yasuoka, 10 and 1. He faces, from Japan, Junior Ianaga at 6 and 5. 7 and 5 in the mix for some tiebreak slots. Table 2, John Finkel, 7 and 4 against Shuhei Nakamura at 6 and 5. So Shuhei has to get past John Finkel just to be in that 7 and 5 mix. Crazy. Finkel in for sure. I know many of you John Finkel fans, that gets you in.
That's some nice Hall of Famer on Hall of Famer action right there.
Indeed. Now, we can be certain that Brian Kibler and Yuuya Watanabe will not both be in the top 4 because they have been drawn against each other at 6 and 5. One of those two will go to 7 and 5 and be in with a shout. Also, just crazy magic these. Martin Juza at 6 and 5 against Paolo Vita Dama de Rosa at 6 and 5. So you talked with Paolo. He starts out 0 and 3 in Cube. Now here he is, still alive, but really now, that's where it all stops. This is it, and then see what happens.
Yeah, he's got to continue his hot run.
Okay. As far as I can see, that is as far down as we go, because then we have Quo against Turtonwell, 12 place 15, Ochoa against Duke, 15 against 3, Scott-Vargas against Hain at 15 points each, Alexander Hain 5 and 6, battling for an even record after his great start, and then Josh Utter-Leighton, who fought his way back after a poor beginning, now at 5 and 6, battling again with Samuel Estrati for let's see who can get there, get up to an even record. So here we go: Yasuo Kiyonaga, Finkel Nakamura, Kibler Watanabe, Juza DeRosa, those 8 into 4 sometime in the next hour. 8 into 4 has to go. For Sheldon Menery, let's get down to the final round action of the Players' Championship 2012. Magic Celebration, September the 8th, 2012. You can play in a no-charge Mini-Master event, while supplies last, of course, thanks to Wizards of the Coast. It's our thank you to you for being great Magic fans. Find a location near you at locator.wizards.com.